Welcome back. This is Mr. Tom here with another video for you. This week we are going to be learning about the animal kingdom, and we're going to be looking at different groups within the animal kingdom. Now, the reason we break them into different groups is because it makes it easier for scientists to study them. Okay, we're going to be looking at 6 groups. We're going to start off with one I'm sure you're all familiar with. In fact, you might have some at home as pets. Mammals. Mammals have fur. Even ones that live in water doesn't really look like they have hair. This is called a manatee. It actually is a mammal because it has hair. Some of you might have a mammal at home. You might have a dog or a cat. I have a mammal. His name is Vincent. He's an orange tabby cat. Next we have birds. Birds have what on the outside of their body? What covers their body? Feathers. Birds have feathers. And you might think, oh, well, also all birds fly. It's actually not true. Not all birds fly. There are some that don't. I'm sure you've heard of a penguin. Penguins don't fly. But all birds have feathers. Next we have the reptiles. Now, reptiles have kind of thick, scaly skin. Some are really, really thick and tough. Look here. What animal that is? It's called an alligator. They have really, really tough skin. And then others, maybe not as tough. Let's see this snake here. And this guy right here, if you've ever been to our discovery room in the museum, you've probably seen them. We have 2 of them here. It's called a bearded dragon, and they're native to Australia. Another thing about reptiles is they actually lay eggs. They're similar to birds. Now, this next group of animals, they sometimes get confused with reptiles because they can look similar. Amphibians. Now, amphibians are different from reptiles a few different ways. One big way in which they're different is they need to hang around water. They live on land, most of them, but they still need to hang around water because their skin is really thin and they need that moisture to keep their skin nice and moist. Also, their eggs are different from reptile and bird eggs. They're very thin, very delicate looking. See, this almost looks like jelly, kind of, or fish eggs. Amphibians lay their eggs in water. And then you can tell here, so if you look at this animal, it's called a salamander. You can see that skin is really shiny. It's really thin, and it needs to stay moist and wet. So you're not going to see one of these guys around a desert. A desert is just too dry, doesn't have enough water. But you can find some lizards in deserts because they have really tough protective skin. Next we have fish, and you can have lots of different kinds of fish, lots of sizes, all the way from little minnows about that big to the world's largest fish. I can't stretch out my arms that far. It's the whale shark. It's the largest living fish in the world. But fish spend their entire lives in water. Amphibians spend some of their life in water, some of their life on land. Fish need to live in water. And then finally, my favorite group of animals, and this is a really, really big group, it's called the invertebrates. Now, a vertebra is a bone back here. In fact, if you reach your hand back there, you might feel those bones there. Those are called vertebrae, and they go down a line all the way down your back. That's called your spine. Now, these animals are different from all these others I've showed you, that they do not have a spine. In fact, some of them, they almost have a skeleton like on the outside of their body, like the insects here. And this guy here, this is not an insect. It's called an arachnid. It's a scorpion. Now, they have what's called an exoskeleton. It's basically means you have a skeleton on the outside of your body. But you can have other types of invertebrates that really don't have a skeleton at all. Like this guy here, the jellyfish. And you can also have snails. This is a cuttlefish here. It's kind of like a squid or an octopus. So lots of different kinds of invertebrates. We're going to do a special presentation for you so you can check out one of our animals. All right, well, I have someone I'd like you to meet. This is Walter. One of our animals in their discovery room. Now take a close look. What kind of animal is this? Remember, there were 6 we talked about. I'll give you a hint. He's very scaly. He's got some really thick scales. In fact, he lives in a desert environment in Australia. You might remember when you looked at one of our pictures there, you thought, oh, there's actually something that looks a lot like that. Oh, he is a reptile. He's got that really thick, scaly skin. It's called a bearded dragon. His name is Walter. He's one of my favorites. He's pretty content, pretty chill. Now, the reason they call him bearded dragons, maybe you can figure it out. If you look here on the bottom, it kind of looks like he has a beard. All right, now we're going to get ready for a craft. Well, let me show you what we're going to be making for today's craft. We're going to be making a mask. Now, this is just a paper plate. And all I did was I just cut it out to the shape I wanted. You can make yours look however you like. But basically what I did was I just made this curve here, and then I had a space for my nose. You can also use this one if you want. If you want to actually draw a nose on your mask, you can do that. You can use this end. I decided to use this, and also I just took some scissors and I cut out eye holes. Okay, so this is going to be my mask. And do you remember the animal that I just showed you? His name was Walter. He's our bearded dragon, and he is a reptile. Very good. Now, do you remember what colors Walter was? Remember, he lives in a desert. What kinds of colors do you see in a desert? So lots of times, the colors of animals can actually match their environment, can help them blend in. So if you remember, Walter had kind of like yellowish, tan, almost kind of brown colors. So what I'm going to do, for my bucket of colored pencils here, I'm going to pick some, let's see, I think I'll get some black so I can make a nice outline. I'm also going to pick brown and orange here and yellow. All right, so these are Walter kinds of colors. All right, so set that aside here. Let's see, where do I want to start? Well, if you remember, Walter had spikes on his chin. So let's go ahead and draw some spikes. I think so. Let's say this is our chin down here. He also had some kind of on his cheek too, so that's okay. I'm going to use a darker color just so it's easier to see for you. Yeah. Now their spikes, they actually use those to protect themselves, but their spikes actually aren't sharp. They're not really that sharp at all. They're more for show. They're trying to look scary. So a lot of times what they do is when they're trying to look scary to, say, a predator, an animal that might want to eat it, it will actually puff out its chin and those spines will stick out. And they'll also get really dark and look kind of almost black, actually. And that's saying to that predator, hey, I'm big, I'm scary, you don't want to mess with me. Okay, so we're just going to make some spines here. All right. Let's see, another thing I want to do, I'm actually going to go ahead and, because if you notice, if you looked his head down up to his nose, it was kind of like a triangle, so I'm just going to make some lines just to kind of show that. Okay. Just to show that there's a sharp triangle there. And I want to color in some of those spines. I'm going to choose some orange. Again, you can color in whatever you like. Be creative. Make any kind of animal mask you want. And you know what's fun actually is you can use crayon or colored pencil, marker, or paint even. But you can also bring in things from outside. Okay, so let's say you wanted to make a bird mask. You can go outside and you can look around on the ground, see if you can find some feathers. If you do, you can tape them. Okay, so this is a different size feather, but go outside, maybe you'll find a bunch of feathers, and then you can either tape them on here or glue might be better, but just attach them however you want. Be creative. You can go outside and find wood chips. Maybe you'll find a piece of wood or even a small stone or something that you can attach that maybe looks like a nose, whatever you want. All right, the color, let's put a little yellow in there. Okay, and then just because he's mostly kind of yellowish, kind of orangish color, I'm just gonna color this in a little bit. Kind of sandy, deserty color. And let's do a little bit of orange. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and make just a few above his eyes. Just a couple spines above his eyes. He's very spiky. Okay, so here is my bearded dragon mask. Okay, now next thing you can do, if you want, is you can take a popsicle stick. I recommend using a nice big one. This is a jumbo popsicle stick. And what you can do now is you can take a stapler and make sure it's a big enough stapler because you want to be able to staple so the staple goes all the way through the craft stick and the plate. Okay, so push hard. And there you go. Now we have our bearded dragon mask. Well, I hope you enjoyed that project and learning about different kinds of animals. I will see you next week for another video.